April 3, 1924, 4:47 a.m. William Dever's campaign headquarters on South Ashland Avenue was burning. Orange flames licked through the second-story windows, consuming 5 months of work in minutes. Campaign posters, voter registration lists, evidence files, all of it turning to ash. The fire department arrived at 5. And if you like this video, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. 5:03. By then, it was too late. The building was gone. But Fire Chief Michael Corrigan knew immediately this wasn't an accident. The smell was wrong. Gasoline, lots of it. And the burn pattern, multiple points of origin. This was arson. Professional arson. Standing across the street watching the flames was a man in an expensive gray suit. He didn't run when the fire trucks arrived. He didn't hide. He just stood there, smoking a cigar, making sure the job was done right. His name was Jake Guzik, and he was Al Capone's accountant, fixer, and the man who handled problems that couldn't be solved with violence alone. At 6:15 a.m., William Dever got the call, the judge. Running for mayor of Chicago, the reform candidate who'd promised to clean up the city stood in his kitchen holding the phone, listening to his campaign manager describe the destruction. "Everything's gone, Bill. Everything." "Who did this?" Dever asked, though he already knew the answer. His campaign manager was silent for a moment. "Who do you think?" Al Capone. The name hung in the air like smoke. But here's what most people don't know about that fire, what the history books won't tell you. It wasn't random mob violence. It wasn't intimidation. It was the opening move in a chess game that would determine who really controlled Chicago. And William Dever had forced Capone's hand 3 weeks earlier with a decision that threatened to destroy the entire outfit's empire. To understand why Capone burned down a campaign office, you need to understand Chicago in 1924. The city was wide open. Prohibition had been the law for 4 years, and it had turned Chicago into the most corrupt city in America. Mayor William Thompson, Big Bill Thompson, had made a deal with the mob. They could run booze, gambling, prostitution, whatever they wanted, as long as they kicked money upstairs and delivered votes on Election Day. It was a perfect arrangement. The outfit made millions. Thompson stayed in power, and Chicago became a playground for gangsters. But there was a problem. His name was William Dever. Dever was a judge, a genuine reformer, the kind of man who couldn't be bought, threatened, or intimidated. He'd spent 20 years on the bench, building a reputation for honesty in a city drowning in corruption. And in January 1924, he announced he was running for mayor. The outfit wasn't worried at first. Reform candidates ran every election. They made speeches about cleaning up the city, and then they lost. Chicago voters liked their city the way it was, wet and wide open. But Dever was different. He had a plan. And that plan, if it worked, would put Al Capone out of business. Dever knew he couldn't just promise reform. He had to prove the current administration was corrupt beyond redemption. So he did something unprecedented. He started collecting evidence, real evidence. Dever's team spent months documenting every speakeasy, every gambling den, every brothel operating openly under Thompson's protection. They photographed police officers drinking in mob-owned bars. They recorded payoffs. They tracked money from Capone's organization directly into Thompson's campaign coffers. And on March 15, 1924, 3 weeks before the fire, Dever held a press conference that changed everything. The Chicago Tribune Building, March 15, 1924, 2 p.m. William Dever stood before 50 reporters with a stack of documents 3 inches thick. "Gentlemen," he began, his voice steady and clear, "I'm here to show you something that every Chicago... And if you like this video, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Chicagoan already knows, but has never seen proven. This city is not governed by Mayor Thompson. It's governed by organized crime." He opened the first folder. This is a ledger from the Four Deuces, Al Capone's headquarters on South Wabash. It shows $280,000 in payments made directly to city officials over the past 18 months. Payments for protection, for licenses, for looking the other way while federal law is violated every single night. The reporters leaned forward. This wasn't typical campaign rhetoric. This was documentation. Dever opened another folder. This photograph was taken last Thursday at 11 p.m. It shows Captain John Stagg of the Chicago Police Department entering the Green Mill Cocktail Lounge, a known Capone establishment. He remained inside for 2 hours. He left with an envelope. We have 3 witnesses who will testify to what was in that envelope. $500 in cash. One by one, Dever presented his evidence. Bank records showing suspicious deposits in police officers' accounts, photographs of city officials at mob-owned establishments, testimony from honest cops who'd been pushed out for refusing to cooperate. Building. Permits for speakeasies approved by Thompson's building commissioner. It was devastating, meticulous, and impossible to dismiss. The Chicago Daily News ran the headline the next morning. Dever presents evidence of city-wide corruption. Thompson administration tied to Capone organization. The Tribune went further. Judge Dever proves what everyone suspected. Chicago for sale to highest bidder. By March 16th, William Dever had transformed from just another reform candidate into a genuine threat. His poll numbers jumped 15 points overnight. Donations poured in from legitimate businessmen who were tired of paying mob protection. Even some of Thompson's allies started distancing themselves. At the Lexington Hotel, Al Capone's headquarters, the mood was tense. Capone sat at his desk reading the newspaper coverage, his jaw tight. He was only 25 years old, but he'd already built a criminal empire worth millions. And now, some judge with a stack of papers was threatening to tear it all down. Johnny Torrio, Capone's mentor and the real brains behind the outfit, sat across from him. "This is bad, Al. If Dever wins, everything changes. He'll appoint an honest police chief. He'll raid every operation we've got. He'll make Chicago hostile territory." "So what do we do?" Capone asked. "We can't kill a mayoral candidate. Too much heat. We can't buy him. The man's made it clear he can't be bought." Torrio was quiet for a moment, thinking. "Then we make him irrelevant. We destroy his campaign infrastructure. We make it impossible for him to organize, to reach voters, to function." Capone understood immediately. The evidence files, the voter lists, the campaign headquarters, all of it. Torrio nodded. "All of it. And we do it in a way that sends a message. Fire doesn't leave witnesses." The order went out that afternoon. Jake Guzik was put in charge of the operation. Guzik was perfect for this kind of work. He wasn't a shooter, wasn't a leg breaker. He was an organizer, a man who understood that the outfit's real power came from controlling systems, not just from violence. Guzik spent the next 2 weeks planning. He studied Dever's campaign headquarters, a 3-story building on South Ashland Avenue. He noted the security, one-night watchmen who left at midnight. He mapped the fire escape routes, the neighboring buildings, the police patrol patterns. He recruited 2 professional arsonists from Detroit, men who knew how to make a fire look accidental if needed, but also how to make it send a message if that was the goal. On April 2nd, Guzik met with the arsonists in a back room at the Four Deuces. "This is the target," he said, spreading out a blueprint of Dever's headquarters. "We hit it tomorrow night, 4:30 a.m. The watchman leaves at midnight. Streets are empty. Nearest fire station is 8 blocks away. By the time they arrive, the building's gone." "What about people inside?" one of the arsonists asked. "There won't be anyone inside," Guzik replied. "This isn't about killing. It's about destroying evidence and breaking their organization." The arsonist nodded. "Multiple ignition points?" "Yes. Gasoline accelerant. We want it to burn hot and fast, and we want it to be obvious. No trying to make it look accidental." Guzik shook his head. "No. We want Dever to know exactly who did this. We want him to understand that he can collect all the evidence he wants, but it doesn't matter. We can take it away whenever we choose. But here's what Jake Guzik didn't know, what Al Capone didn't know, what nobody in the outfit realized. William Dever had been expecting this move for 2 weeks. Dever hadn't become a successful judge by being naive about how power worked in Chicago. He knew that presenting that evidence would provoke a reaction. He knew Capone couldn't afford to let him win, and he knew the outfit's playbook. They wouldn't kill him, too much attention. They go after his infrastructure. And if you like this video, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Dead. The night after his press conference, Dever had dinner with his campaign manager, Robert Crow, and his chief investigator, a former Secret Service agent named Thomas O'Brien. "They're going to come after the evidence," Dever said. "They'll try to destroy it before the election." Crow nodded. The headquarters? Most likely Target. Everything's there. All the files, all the voter lists, all our organizational material. So what do we do? Hire more security? Dever shook his head. We let them destroy it. Both men stared at him. You want them to burn down our headquarters? We let them burn down the building, Dever clarified, but not the evidence. O'Brien started to smile. He understood. We move it. Everything important, we move it somewhere they won't think to look, and we leave enough behind to make it look like the real thing. Over the next week, Dever's team executed the plan. They created duplicate files, fake voter registration lists, dummy evidence folders. They filled the filing cabinets at the South Ashland headquarters with convincing-looking papers that were actually worthless. The real evidence, the actual bank records, the authentic testimony, the genuine photographs, all of it was moved to a secure location, a safety deposit vault at the First National Bank, rented under O'Brien's wife's name. The real voter registration lists were distributed to 15 different ward offices across the city. Campaign materials that couldn't be replaced, donor lists, volunteer contact information, all copied and stored in multiple locations. On April 1st, Dever walked through his campaign headquarters one last time. To anyone watching, it looked fully operational. File cabinets full of papers, desks covered with documents, posters on the walls. But Dever knew the truth. This was a stage set. Everything that mattered was already safe. He called his senior staff together that evening. Something's going to happen, probably in the next few days. When it does, I need everyone to react appropriately. Shock, anger, defiance. Let the press see you devastated. Let Capone think he's won. One of the younger volunteers looked confused. But we're not actually devastated? Dever smiled. No, we're playing chess, and we're about to trade a rook for a queen. At 4:32 a.m. on April 3rd, two men approached the South Ashland Avenue building carrying gasoline cans. They picked the back door lock in 90 seconds. Inside, they worked quickly and professionally. Gasoline splashed across the first floor, soaking the wooden floors, the furniture, the file cabinets full of fake evidence. More gasoline on the second floor, on the stairs, creating a path for the fire to follow. At 4:47 a.m., they lit the match. The building erupted. Flames shot through the windows. The heat was so intense that windows across the street cracked. The fire department arrived at 5:03, but Chief Corrigan knew immediately it was arson. The smell, the burn pattern, the intensity. This was a professional job. Jake Guzik watched from across the street, satisfied. The building was completely engulfed. Whatever evidence Dever had collected, it was ash now. By 6:30 a.m., the fire was out, but the building was a total loss, nothing but a burned-out shell. Guzik made a phone call from a nearby payphone. It's done. Everything's gone. At the Lexington Hotel, Al Capone allowed himself a rare smile. Good. Let Dever try to prove corruption now. Without evidence, he's just another politician making accusations. The outfit went back to business as usual. The fire had worked. Dever's campaign was crippled. Thompson would win re-election. Chicago would stay open. But at 9 a.m. that same morning, something unexpected happened. William Dever called a press conference. The same reporters who'd covered the fire showed up, expecting to see a broken candidate, maybe even a withdrawal from the race. Instead, they found Dever standing in front of the First National Bank, looking calm, almost pleased. Gentlemen, Dever began, I'm sure you've all heard about the fire at my campaign headquarters. It was a tragedy. 5 months of hard work, destroyed in minutes. He paused, or so Al Capone thinks. Dever nodded to Thomas O'Brien, who opened a large briefcase. Every piece of evidence I presented 2 weeks ago still exists. Bank records, photographs, testimony, all of it. We anticipated that Mr. Capone might try something like this, so we took precautions. The real files have been in a secure bank vault for 2 weeks. What burned last night were copies. Useless copies. The reporters started shouting questions. Dever raised his hand for silence. But that's not all. The arson attack on my campaign headquarters is itself evidence of corruption. Chief Corrigan has confirmed this was professional arson. The Chicago Police Department is investigating, and I'm off. And if you like this video, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. offering a 10,000 reward for information leading to the arrest of whoever ordered this attack. It was a masterstroke. Capone had thought he was destroying Devers' campaign. Instead, he'd given Devers another headline, more publicity, and martyrdom status. The newspapers ran wild with it. Capone burns evidence, but Devers prepared. All files safe in bank vault. Judge Devers outsmarts mob. Fire backfires on outfit. Campaign office arson proves Devers' corruption claims. Public opinion shifted dramatically. If Capone was desperate enough to burn down a campaign office, Devers' evidence must be real. If the outfit feared Devers that much, he must be the genuine reformer Chicago needed. By April 5th, Devers' poll numbers had jumped another 20 points. Donations tripled. Volunteers flooded in. The fire that was supposed to cripple his campaign had energized it instead. At the Lexington Hotel, Al Capone was furious. He threw a telephone through a window. That son of a bitch played us. He wanted us to burn the building. Johnny Torrio sat quietly, reassessing. He's smarter than we thought. He understood how we'd react and used it against us. So what now? Capone demanded. Torrio was silent for a long moment. Now we have a problem. If we do nothing, Devers wins, and we lose Chicago. If we escalate, we prove his point and guarantee he wins. We're in a box. For the next month, the outfit tried everything else. They spread rumors about Devers, bought negative newspaper coverage, intimidated his smaller donors. Nothing worked. The fire had made Devers a hero. On May 6, 1924, Chicago held its mayoral election. William Devers won with 58% of the vote, the largest margin in the city's history. His victory speech was short. I made a promise to clean up Chicago. Tomorrow, that work begins. True to his word, Devers appointed an honest police chief, Morgan Collins, who immediately began raiding Capone operations. Within 6 months, the outfit's profits dropped by 40%. Hundreds of speakeasies were shut down. Corrupt cops were fired or prosecuted. Al Capone was forced to move his base of operations to Cicero, a suburb outside Chicago's jurisdiction. Wasn't a total victory. Capone rebuilt. Corruption didn't disappear. But for 4 years, from 1924 to 1928, Chicago was significantly cleaner than it had been. And it all started because William Devers understood something that most reformers didn't. You can't beat the mob by being tougher than them. You beat them by being smarter, by anticipating their moves, by turning their own tactics against them. The fire at the South Ashland Avenue, and if you like this video, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Campaign headquarters became legendary in Chicago politics. People told the story for decades, how Devers had baited Capone into making a move, how he'd sacrificed a building to win an election, how he'd played chess while Capone was still learning checkers. Jake Gusick, years later, after both Devers and Capone were gone, was asked about that night. The reporter wanted to know if he regretted the arson. Gusick just smiled that cold accountant smile. Regret's not the word. I learned something. I learned that the most dangerous opponent isn't the one with the most guns. It's the one who thinks 3 moves ahead. We thought we were burning evidence. Turns out we were lighting a fire under his campaign.